This is me. I've been with Burger King for about like 5 years now. Before Burger King, I did my whole career at Unilever, so I spent 18 years doing marketing at Unilever, and then 5 years ago, I felt like it was time to change. Like, it's kind of weird when your friends start to nickname you Unilever, and I thought like I probably need to do something different. I decided to make a change, and then I called Burger King. They never called me. I was the guy who called them. I am Brazilian. You can probably tell that I have an accent, and I grew up in Brazil as a kid, as a teenager, seeing the great stuff that Burger King used to do like 15, 20 years ago. I still remember like watching Subservient Chicken. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but to this day it's considered to be one of the biggest like viral hits in history. I remember watching Whopper Freak Out, which to this day is my favorite Burger King campaign. So I grew up looking up to that type of work, which was work that Crispin Porter Bogowski back then, 15, 20 years ago, used to do. And Burger King was like growing, the business was growing, the brand was becoming stronger and stronger. They are gaining like every single creative award you can think of on that time. This brand has won. And this is me on my first week in Miami. It's accelerator. I'm pretty bad at that. I slow down the service in the restaurant. I make the orders wrong. But we do like 5 days at least a year, which is actually really fun to get close to your guests, to get close to the consumer, and see how things work in the real world. So I moved to Miami, but when I moved to Miami, to be honest with you, the brand was not at its best. You know, like I remember my first week when I arrived, I asked like, guys, can I see the brand positioning? And then people answer back like, which one you want? Because you have like 5, which is usually like a sign that things are not good. I asked to see like, can I see the advertising reel from the agency from the recent past? And they said, no, we don't have one. And I said, well, why don't you just call the agency and ask them to put something together? Like they don't talk to us anymore. We fired like 4 or 5 agencies in a space of 2 years. So we have quite a reputation, a negative one in the marketplace. And we are doing stuff that honestly, I wouldn't be proud of. I will show you like one ad, and I will show you just like one picture of design, just so you guys get a sense of what it was back then. And then I will start to talk about what we did since then. So we'll play one ad, it's a short one.
Exciting things are happening at Burger King.
Welcome to Burger King, honey. Your crispy chicken strips. So I said, Kung Pao. The Kung Pao with the jalapeno. Have you tried the sauce yet?
Tyler?
Can I get an order of those new crispy chicken strips?
Well, who's that talking?
Steven? You need a hairnet, Tyler?
You need to get some hair, John.
Exciting things are happening at Burger King. Hey! The new crispy chicken strips. Come and get it at Burger King.
So the guys were clearly desperate, so they were hiring like every single celebrity they could afford. So we had a campaign with Jay Leno, Mary J. Blige, Sofia Vergara, who is very famous in Latin America. This guy is the lead singer for Aerosmith. And I've been to 1 million focus groups in the US. No one ever mentioned this campaign. It didn't do anything in terms of sales. It didn't do anything in terms of like driving the brand attributes that we want to own. It's just like lazy marketing, to be honest. You know, like there is no idea there. If I ask you an hour from now what was the product that has been advertised, you'll probably not remember what it was. You probably don't even remember it now, because even the product is generic. Burger King is not like that. Burger King is like much more raw, real, authentic. It's the type of brand, it's kind of like what you see is what you get. And this is the opposite of that. This feels like a commercial. I remember watching this for the first time and saying, guys, it looks like a commercial. And people were happy. Yes, right? I mean, that's what we do. No, I think that people today, they know better. And they need to do better than just doing a TV commercial. This was the design, the pack design that we had. You know, like you put the food in this hospital food looking takeaway bag that's bleached white. It feels like you're going to open, there will be like a chicken soup inside. And then you write fresh prepared, you write up something rational to overcompensate for that, when in reality, no one reads anything. You know, I don't even know what the brand of shampoo or the variant of the shampoo I use. I know it's Head and Shoulders blue, but I really don't know what's written there. People don't read. So I would rather have like a design that the semiotics of the design tell the story, and I have to rely less on stuff that's written there. Have a design that's Instagrammable, that people feel like taking a picture of, that people feel like engaging with. But it's very hard to do that if you don't have clarity on what the brand positioning is, because every single touch point needs to link back to that. So we'll talk, again, like I don't have much time, so I didn't spend a lot of time explaining how bad stuff was, but it was really not great. I could talk about restaurant image, which was pretty bad and generic, how we used to use like super generic images inside of the restaurant to decorate the restaurant. I could talk about the culture. I could talk about the creative ambition. It was simply not there. And there were 5 things that we did that I think made the difference. And I mean, I'm jumping ahead on the story, but Burger King today is doing quite well in terms of business results. I will show some of that to you. It's public information. Since I started the stock, more than double the price. We've been growing almost like 10% every year, and we are in fast food. You guys know that's not easy to grow a double digit in any industry. In fast food, probably like even harder. But there were 5 things that we did. The first thing, which is really basic, was to try to understand the brand. It doesn't matter your creative ambition. It doesn't matter how much you want to invest in digital. It doesn't matter anything if you don't know what your brand is about. Because if you don't know that, whatever you do will end up being generic, or the things are going to be very patchwork. You're going to do design that's not going to talk to restaurant image, that's not going to talk with advertising. And in our case, there are lots of marketeers out there that when you say, oh, we need to understand the brand, they think that you need to do an exercise of locking yourself in a room with a flip chart to brainstorm what the future brand positioning for the brand should be. Burger King has been in the marketplace since 1954. So despite the fact that we are doing work that was not really great, and I hope you agree with that, people still love the brand. I remember going through airports wearing Burger King. I wear a lot of Burger King, more than I should. And people always make fun of me. You have Whoppers on your luggage. You work for Burger King. They always have a memory of wearing the crown or something. And they talk to you as if they knew me. And I'm talking about the US, guys. I mean, customs in the US is not the most friendly. Yeah, neither in Miami, even worse in New York. But every time I say I work for Burger King, people open a smile. And they talk to me as if they knew me. So the brand is very strong, and it was very loved. So the exercise we did was try to understand why was that. It was less about reinventing the brand and more about doing a bit of brand anthropology to understand why this love was there. And in our case, it always starts with the product. By the way, that's the case for any brand. We talk a lot about iconic brands, brands that do a purposeful work, and that's all beautiful, but you can only do that if you have a good product to start with. Else people are going to come and try the brand, they're not going to come back. In our case, we flame grill since 1954. These are the 2 founders from Burger King working on the broiler. Yeah? And when you ask the fans of the brand, why do you like Burger King? They say, oh, I love the Whopper. And why do you like the Whopper? Oh, I like the Whopper because it's flame grill, because it's this big sandwich. It's kind of messy when you eat. It drips, and I feel good when I eat that. The value is good. The price is not so high. So it ties to value, quality, flame grilling. People love the fact that the Whopper is a messy experience to eat one. People prefer a sandwich that's made by hand with craftsmanship, with flame grilling, which is beautiful because no Whopper is the same as the other because the grill marks are like a fingerprint on the sandwich, right? And they prefer that than a sandwich that's coming out of the assembly line. So that's kind of where we look at first, the product. And then we look at our fans. And fast food is a fun occasion. So if you go on Instagram, social media in general, and you search for any fast food brand, you're going to see lots of people having fun. But if you look #Burger King on Instagram, you will quickly notice that our fans are a little bit more out there than the average fast food fan. And then we asked ourselves why. Well, maybe it's because we put the crown on everyone's head. And the crown is not for kids, by the way. I mean, if you go in any restaurant, you are going to see lots of adults wearing the crown. Maybe it's because we say to people that they can have it their way, and they take that as respecting for their individualities, and they just feel good being perfectly imperfect. They just feel good being themselves, pretty much like the products that we sell, which when we are at our best, they are also perfectly imperfect. I love this. We are interviewing someone in Miami, And the guy's like all giving like serious answers to everything, and then someone goes and puts the crown on his head, and you can see the transformation, right? It happens in front of you. Like sometimes I present this to the finance guys on my company, so I created this diagram that makes it easier to see the difference, right? I mean, it's amazing, like how many brands you know that have an asset like that have people that have a reaction like that. This is a paper crown. It doesn't cost anything. We give away in the restaurant. So we kind of, I could go on and talk about the values and personality of the brand. We are fun, self-deprecating, bold, challenger. But I will summarize by saying that it's a brand that's perfectly imperfect, a brand that puts a lot of value on the crown as like a democratic thing, and it's a brand that allows you to have it your way and respect the way you are. And we've been doing this since forever. So the challenge that we had is like, how can we make this more modern? How can we make this engaging? I think I have one example here. This is an ad that we just did. It's from, I only put like new stuff because you probably saw some of the old stuff already. So this is an ad that we did for home delivery in Spain. And we also are also using, like in many other markets, it's launching in the US very soon. It was a huge success in terms of sales, in terms of ad recall, in terms of driving the attributes of the brand. We are not first to market in delivery, so if you want to advertise, you need to do something different. So I'll just play and then I'll talk very briefly about it.
Maybe I didn't love you quite as often as I could have, and maybe I didn't treat you quite as good as I should have, but you were always on my
So you look at this now, and you think, oh, it's cool, it's cute, like so nice, I would share. When we came with the idea, that's not the reaction that usually people have. Like when I come with the idea, say, guys, I mean, we want to do a promotion that I'm going to drop a bone for dogs inside of our takeaway bag when people order on delivery. People are like, what? Like, you want to put our food together with dog food? People are going to make fun of us. People are going to not like it. They're going to say that our food is like dog food, la 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 la. It's very easy to kill any idea that's a little bit different. You know, after you execute, everyone is like, oh yes, I supported that from the beginning. Yeah. But even this, which is a cute film, sometimes the naysayers will come and try to argue. And most ideas die like that, and I will go back to that point. This is the merchandising we created. You know, that's the face of, when I presented for the first time, the face of some people. Like, so that's the first point. You need to understand your brand, else like it will go any direction. The second point is you need to create a great brief. You know, and I've seen my fair share of terrible briefs. I've wrote some terrible briefs. I think that in the beginning of my career, I thought that the longer the brief, the better the brief was. So I would be really proud of writing this 50-page brief that no one would read. Like, I think if I gave to my mom, not even my mom would read that brief. And I love this quote, which is from Mark Twain. I didn't have time to write a short letter, so I wrote a long one instead. Like, the best briefs are super ultra short. They are incredibly single-minded, insightful. You read the brief, it starts to sparkle ideas on your head. But they are really hard to write. You know, it's really hard to write a brief that's single-minded. Most of the briefs, when they come to me to take a look, they have like 3 things. Oh, the product does this, the price is that, there is this attribute of quality. And every time I see that, I feel like, well, someone didn't do their homework. Because you really need to go and understand what is the one key thing that you have to say. You know, if the brief has a bunch of stuff, it's very hard for the consumer to take anything out of that. So that's why, in most cases, our briefs, they look like this. You know, We have a brief around our functional credentials, and the brief is because fire is better. Look, I mean, some people feel uncomfortable with that. Oh, but what's the target audience? What's the job to be done? What's the supporting points? What are the channels? I have it all written if people want to read that. But like, I can tell you now, your creative team is not going to read any of that. Your creative team is going to remember that phrase forever. You know, show Whopper love. That's exactly the previous film that you guys saw. That comes from that brief there, as simple as that. And we do that because I want to make sure that even when my creative guy is watching Game of Thrones, he's thinking about my brief. You know, most briefs, they are forgettable. Like, people just don't remember. So if they don't remember, they don't work behind it. I prefer to have a much simpler brief that my creative guys will have an idea while they're taking a shower than having a super complicated, uninspiring brief that the guys will probably only going to read 2 days before the creative presentation, which, by the way, when they were going to start to work on your brief. Whether you like it or not, that's how it works out there, guys. So make like a very simple, sharp brief. I have an example here from Whopper Love. It's a campaign that we did for April Fools. I don't know if you have April Fools here, but you guys probably know what April Fools is. We did for April Fools beginning of this year. I'll just play the case study for you guys to see.
Welcome, Burger King. What can I serve for you today?
The chocolate Whopper, was that an April Fool's prank? Or
I think so.
Oh, yeah. That's right. We launched a new chocolate Whopper. A flame-grilled, tantalizing, chocolatey sensation. Our most decadent Whopper ever. Except we didn't.
What? There's no chocolate Whopper! Oh, I wanted to try it!
So sorry, Internet. People had to have it. So they made their own. And guess what? Our fake news became real news.
Oh, it's a new offer from Burger King. Ooh, a chocolate Whopper. That's a lot.
Yes, it is.
I love hilarious brand-related comedy, and so
let's
nice
hear
job,
it,
Burger
Jason.
King.
You're welcome.
Some things you don't want to be an April Fool's joke, and you actually want it to be real. That's one of them.
Oh, don't cry. I was thinking the same thing. Spectacular. Ooh, look at those logos. Impressive. Make it rain. We troll the whole world, baby. The chocolate Whopper. After all this, we'll definitely launch it next year. Maybe.
Don't say maybe.
But you see the level of engagement of people. I see a lot of people talking about social by design, la la la. Here we did something that was a joke, and people took the time to create their own version of the chocolate Whopper. Can you imagine the level of engagement you need to have for that to happen? This campaign, we didn't put 1 cent behind media. It's all earned media. It was just a PR stunt. But again, when you go and say like, hey, we are going to launch this product, but it's fake, we're not going to really sell it. Oh, but people are going to come to the restaurant and get upset with our crew members. People are smarter than that. You know, you're launching around April Fools. The brand is known as being a bit of a prankster. People get it, and that's what happened. People got it. That was the second point. So understand your brand. Have a sharp brief, like a short brief. Number 3, which I think is really important, is let the idea grow. Chocolate Whopper, when it was presented to us, it was presented, hey, we want to do a Facebook post with a picture saying that we are going to launch a chocolate Whopper. And then I said, guys, this idea is much better than that. Let's film the whole thing. You know, let's create like a proper ad. Let's not do CGI. Let's shoot the thing for real. Spend like $300,000 and do it properly. Or, for instance, when they did Dogper, on the Dogper is the name of the film I presented before with the dog. The music of the film is more expensive than the whole film. yeah, just to put that music there. But it's worth it because it makes the idea bigger. And if you are patient and if you trust uncertainty, ideas will grow. I have a friend of mine that used to say that when young lions are born, they are baby lions. Okay? They're very easy to kill. Don't worry, I don't have that chart. It's just a metaphor. But it's very easy to kill because someone comes and says like, oh, we're going to have the food with dog food. Oh, we're going to launch a product, but we're not selling the product. That's going to cause problems. It's very, very easy to kill. My whole life, the best ideas I was fortunate enough to work on, when they were presented to me, they were loaded with uncertainty and people didn't know how to do it. You know, when you work with people that are very talented and they don't know how to do an idea, that's a good thing. It means that it was never done before. That's it. And if it has never been done before, it will probably work. It will probably work because it will be different. To do exactly the same as you always have done, it's probably not going to stand out. You are probably not going to get 3 billion impressions, which is what Chocolate Whopper did. So you need to trust uncertainty. This is a beautiful example of that. I'm not going to show the whole case study, but I think it's really funny. You guys can search for it on YouTube too. So for this year, we were launching, again, every Halloween we do something. Okay? Last year, we invited people, if they came dressed as clowns, we would give them a free Whopper. It was really funny. We had more than 100,000 people dressed as clowns, believe it or not. More than 110, actually. On the year before, we dressed the whole restaurant as McDonald's, as a ghost, which was really fun. One restaurant, yeah? And this year, we launched the Nightmare King. So it was a product. The bun was green. It's made of spinach, watermelon. It's all natural. And then we have beef patty, chicken, bacon, and cheese. The whole farm is part of the sandwich, basically, right? And then the agency came with an idea, which was, why don't we do a clinical study to prove that this sandwich increases the chances of you having nightmares? Because there are lots of studies that show that when people eat mixed proteins at night, it does causes sleep disturbances that turn to be nightmares. So we said, that's awesome. We run a clinical study to prove that, so that could be the idea of the campaign. The clinical study was more expensive than the campaign. And we did all that not knowing if it would work or not, right? I mean, because if it doesn't work, I don't have time to do something else. So that's what I mean, trusting uncertainty. So just showing some of the stuff.
You want to get the Nightmare King from Burger King.
This is people Nightmare going crazy King about the sandwich. This is part of the campaign.
What do you see?
A green hamburger.
Yeah, the chain releasing its Nightmare King next week.
Clinically proven to give you nightmares.
This burger will literally induce nightmares.
Oh my gosh.
But it works because it's different. Like what? But do you understand? Like when we come to present, hey guys, we're going to launch a sandwich that increases the chance of you having nightmares by 3.5 times. My CEO is like, what? Like what are you like? But now they trust us to do that type of stuff because they know that if we don't do it, it's probably not going to stand out. This is part of the print campaign. We did ketchups to go with the sandwich. It was pretty cool. In Spain, and I think this is unbelievable, they turned a whole restaurant, they left the kitchen open, but they hired some of the guys that do Disney rides in Disney amusement parks, and they turned a whole restaurant into like a haunted house experience, where you have to go in a corridor, yeah, through the restaurant, and then at the end you can buy the sandwich, yeah. This was a Tuesday night before Halloween, with rain in Madrid, is one of the main streets in Madrid. There was a line of more than 45 minutes to get into a Burger King. You know, like, this is like Apple store, like an iPhone, like, opening. Like, it's shot by the guy from the agency with his phone. I don't even have, like, the final footage. And we were taking pictures of people. There was a scare towards the end of the ride, and we take pictures of the people. And I could spend the whole afternoon with you guys looking at those pictures, because I just love them. You know, like, look at this guy at the back. You know, look at the reactions of people. No, this is brand experience. This is engagement. Yeah. All that to be able to buy the sandwich. That guy was really scared. Seriously, guys, I could spend the whole afternoon. This is my favorite. Like, what is that? What's happening there? I don't know. Anyway, so like you like let the idea grow, you know, like and then it will become much bigger than what you originally predicted. The fourth point is that the biggest risk is not taking any risk, and that's not a phrase of mine. That's a phrase from Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook, and it's so true. You know what I mean? Like in the world that we live today, if you want to play safe, it's going to fall flat. You are going to have another Steven Tyler ad, like the ad I presented in the beginning of the presentation. And a lot of people ask me like two questions. The first question is like, but aren't you afraid when you do these things? You know, like when you do a sandwich that increases the chance of having nightmares, when you do a product that will go with dog food. And when people ask us that, they clearly don't know us because they're asking if you are afraid or not. And we are obviously afraid. We are afraid every time. You know, but that's the thing. If I'm not afraid, if I'm not feeling something, it will fall flat. You know, like you guys can read this. Like there are interviews with my CEO where sometimes he stops me on the corner and he says, Fernando, can you tell us what's the ideas you are working on, just for fun, because he doesn't approve anything anyway. He trusts us. But I explained to him, no, there's idea 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, no PowerPoint, just explain. And he's like, man, I love idea 3. It's awesome. Let's do it. I kill it immediately. Immediately, because no idea that we did that was successful was easy to approve. They were always hard. People look from the outside and think we're kicking an open door. It's never an open door. It's always hard. So we are always afraid, because you have to be afraid. If you're not afraid, it's not about being fearless. That's the other thing. People say, like, oh, you guys do fearless marketing. No, we don't. I'm afraid all the time. You know, like the difference is that we are afraid, but we do it because we know that's going to work. And then the second question that people ask is like, what if it fails? You know, what if it doesn't work? And then I tell them, look, I mean, the way media cycles work today is they are very frequent and short. Yeah. So when a news comes out, usually it peaks in terms of shareability and talkability on day 2, and then it dies out. So usually people who see on day 1 are people who are very involved with the topic, and then the vast majority of people see on day 2, and then my mom sends on my WhatsApp on day 6, more or less. That's kind of how it works. So when my mom is sending Burger King stuff to me, I know it worked, because like it reached her. And then if you zoom out of that graph, and this is a real case, like April 2017, the month started with everyone talking about a tweet from a certain president. Then there was an ad from Pepsi that didn't went so well. Didn't went so well mostly in the industry, because real people don't care about that. But that candle ad, remember, like that was judged to be tone deaf, whatever. And surely, like the guys from Pepsi were like, oh my God, we messed up. Like it will be so hard to recover the brand now. Like we are going to be fired. We cost forever. The brand is damaged. And then the next day there is another tweet from the president, and the conversation shifts. Yeah, and then on the following day, someone was dragged from the United plane. I don't know if you remember that. And I'm sure that the guys on United were like, oh my God, the brand is destroyed. The guys from Pepsi were celebrating by then, because like the thing moved on, right? And then it moves. You know, it moves. It's like, in this context, we did a campaign that was called Google Home of the Whopper, which I'll speak very briefly. And then in our case, something very rare happened, which is we had more than one peak of talkability. And then when we were there at Burger King celebrating, people are going to only talk about us for the rest of their lives. You're such an amazing brand. And then it goes, you know, like it shifts. So the worst that happened to us ever was that people didn't talk as much as we were expecting. It's never negative, you know, because people are like, oh, so afraid, oh, what's going to happen? Nothing happens. And by the way, nothing tends to be the most common outcome of any marketing campaign. So you may as well try to do something different, because maybe then something is going to happen. Yeah? And Google Home of the Whopper, was a campaign that came from one of our agencies in Miami, David Miami. They noticed that during the Super Bowl last year, there was an ad from Google Home that accidentally triggered Google Home in the house of people. So the ad would say, okay, Google, and the Google Home would start to talk, in your house. Like, what? You know what I mean? Like, that had that impact. So the guy said, why don't we do an ad that does that on purpose? Yeah. So they invited me to the agency. They presented me this video. This is one.
Okay,
one of the
tell me what is
creatives.
a Whopper burger?
So it was just the ad.
According to Burger King,
and then it triggers
our
Go
Whopper
Home.
sandwich is a
And my head
1/4 pound
exploded.
Espresso
Like,
savory
back
flame
then,
grilled
no
beef
one has
topped
ever
with
done
juicy
that.
tomatoes.
So I said, yeah, let's do it. So we did it. We launched it. We broke the PR embargo by noon, saying that we are going to launch the ad at night. By 2 p.m. of that day, we had 2 billion impressions already. That was the most talked about Burger King campaign in the history of the UK, and there was no Google Home in the UK. Yeah? To the point that sometimes people say, oh, this is not relevant here. Who knows? You know, just do it. I mean, there's no downside to pushing PR, to pushing the stuff in social media. We're not asking anyone to invest anything. So we got 2 billion impressions. Google blocked us. I know, time's up. I'm almost there, 2 minutes. Yeah. Google blocked us. We figured out how Google did that. They did that by doing voice recognition of the actor. So we went there and changed
You're watching
the
a
voice of the actor.
15-second Burger King ad, which is unfortunately not enough time to explain all the fresh ingredients in the Whopper sandwich. But I got an idea.
Okay, Google, what is the Whopper burger?
So when we launched it with 4 different voices, and on the same night, and it worked. Yeah. So we got 4 headlines on the New York Times. The first one was when we said that we were going to do it. The second one was when Google blocked us. The third one was on the following day when they realized it worked. And there was a 4th one talking about the campaign again. This campaign has more than 11 billion, with B, impressions. It has more than $150 million of earned media behind it. And then just the 5th point before the people from organization freak out since I arrived late and I'm going over time. It's like be one team. That's really, really critical. Like we are one team with all our marketing teams. I'm the global guy, so I have regional teams, I have local teams, and we are one team with our agencies. That's how we deploy campaigns in 30, 40 markets at the same time. You know, we have a WhatsApp group with everyone that works for marketing at Burger King, and we are sharing work in progress, we are sharing what's coming, we work as one team. This is the graph showing how the brand did historically in terms of Cannes Lions, because I thought that would be interesting to show, since I assume there are lots of creative people here. This is the past 4 years, just so you get the perspective of what happened. And you see here the period that the brand was not doing well in terms of business results and in terms of creativity, how the two things kind of correlate. You know, if you work in marketing or in agency, you should believe that creativity matters, and creativity can be a competitive advantage in terms of driving the brand and driving the business. This is sales. Yeah. So in the past 3-4 years, we reached double digit twice, which is massive for a fast food brand. This is the value of the brand. The red curve is Burger King. Yeah. You see here, if I do the correlation of Cannes Lions and the value of the brand, they probably have an R-square. I should probably do that, an R-square that's above 0.7, you know, because you can see how it skyrockets like in the recent past. Yeah. So just to sum up, these are the 5 things. Understand your brand, you know, and if your brand has history, embrace it, dig in, try to make that history more modern, create a great brief, short brief, insightful, you know, do the homework, make sure that you know what is the one thing that if you say is going to make people tick, let the idea grow, embrace uncertainty. The best ideas, they are loaded with uncertainty, they make you uncomfortable. The biggest risk is not taking any risk. Like the worst that can happen is nothing, and nothing is the most common outcome anyway, so you may as well do something different and work as one team with your teams internally. Our legal team is part of my marketing team. The regional, the local teams are part of my marketing team. We work really as one team, and that makes a big difference in one team with your agency partners.